Welcome to the Own Your Best Life podcast. I'm May Emson, your host, leadership and mindset coach. Here, we talk all things spiritual, mindset, business, leadership, and wellness for the modern seeker who wants to align their life with purpose and inspiration. We'll cover career changes, stress management, meditation, energy, intuition, and more. Each episode holds spiritual and practical tools to help you live a life of your wildest dreams without getting burnt out along the way. Ready to live a life on your own terms? This is the Own Your Best Life podcast. Welcome, friends, to episode number 44 of the Own Your Best Life podcast. When was the last time that you worried about not being enough? This is a topic that brings up all sorts of feelings of insecurity. And if you were a human being in the last several years, you've probably experienced this. It might have been the last time that you showed up in a conversation. It might have been the last time that you showed up for a work engagement. It might have been when you started comparing yourself to other people who seem like they might be further along than you. And today we are going to talk about the feeling of not being enough and what our pursuit for more stuff is costing us. So many overachievers have become this way for two reasons. The first is through a feeling of love and inspiration. They have some vision of something that they love so much, and they believe in themselves so much that they go after it, and they are relentless in their pursuit. And the second reason is because they might feel that there is something lacking. Maybe they grew up as an immigrant or with scarcity in their lives, socioeconomically or emotionally, and that creates this need to have stability and to have more than enough so that they wouldn't feel the sense of lack or scarcity in their lives. And either way, the dreams of having more, buying more, and of making it equates to this sense of freedom, this sense of release and relief. And this becomes a spiritual question because all of this is neither good nor bad until we realize that we're no longer free. When we buy things we don't need, sometimes with money that we don't even have, to impress people we don't really care about, this becomes a problem. We have to ask ourselves this question: are we truly going after what we want? And this becomes a spiritual question because all of this stuff begins to compete with what actually matters. When we live paycheck to paycheck so that we can buy more, when we get caught in those golden handcuffs of money, when we start spending more and more time working with less and less time living, being, and actually just making memories, this is how we lose that sense of freedom that we are truly after. And instead of becoming resourceful, we chase instead after having more and more resources. And the question I'm going to ask you is this: do you ever feel that as the years go by, you end up working more? You end up accumulating more? Raise your hand if you're feeling like this is you. Do you feel forced to keep up with the bills and keep up with all the stuff, to keep up with what other people are doing around you? And we hustle and we grind to keep making the money to keep up with all of this. It's exhausting, and we start to measure ourselves by what we have, not by who we are. And who you are is unique to each one of us. And when you begin to ask that question about who you are and what you truly want in life, we're all going to get different answers. Buying things and having things themselves is not evil. Neither is money. What we have to watch out for is when we buy things or we make money from a place of not enoughness that's not grounded in you and it's not grounded in me. And instead, it's grounded in what society, companies, or others are telling you is missing in your life. Or it's grounded in fear. And that is when we become these cookie cutter versions of ourselves, of what we think we have to be successful, instead of these unique creative expressions of ourselves. So let's think of it this way. When you think of someone that is really successful, what do you think would come to mind if you thought of these images? Like if you saw a magazine cover, right? And when we start to think about that, we think about that person having all these images behind them. Maybe they're dressed like in really fancy clothes. Maybe they're wearing really expensive things. We think about expensive things. We think about big homes and lots of money. And at one point in time, when you're starting out and you're just trying to make ends meet, or even if you're there right now, that is okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with being driven by fear or being driven by the sense of lack, because we all get motivated to do things in different ways. And sometimes that feeling of fear is an intensely helpful motivator. The fear of not having enough driving us to keep having more, to create that stability in our lives. But what I'm talking about is when it gets to a point where it's not even needed anymore. That sense of fear is not needed, but we keep operating with that same manual, that same handbook that we used for decades. When things have changed, you have changed, and maybe, just maybe, your definition of success has changed. And so when you think about that image of this really successful person, you're thinking about the boats, the yachts, or the private jets and all the money floating around them. We think about that. And maybe that's not your vision of success or your definition of success. And if that's the case, great, good for you. And either way, it's not good or bad. But the question is, what would you define as success? And if you were to draw a picture or create an image of yourself as successful, what would that look like? And you can ask yourself, how much of this is truly what I want versus what I think I need to have to be enough for others? Ask yourself, do the people who really know me and care about me think this is my highest expression of myself? And when I do this exercise for me, it stops my brain from going into this automatic copycat version of success. The people whose opinion I care about and who really know me don't care about what car I drive. They care about me being fulfilled, happy, laughing, curious, and loving, because that is my expression, and that's my highest expression. They think I'm pretty great, and they know that if I wanted to make boatloads of money and be well compensated for the work I do, I would, and I do. But my stuff and all of that is not what makes me, me. It's not what makes you, you. And so this exercise forced me to think about where I want to live, what kind of relationships that I would want to have in my life, the quality of the relationships, what those conversations would look like, what I want to experience, and how I want to feel. And it may seem really simple, but I have this image that would keep coming up of what it would feel like to wake up in the morning, to step outside, to breathe, to hold a hot cup of beverage in my hand, to just breathe that in. And none of that means that I can't have things, I can't buy things, I can't, accumulate. But what it does mean is that I ask myself, am I going after what truly matters? And true freedom or true financial freedom is different than having lots of things. True financial freedom is when we can overcome the short-term gains of armoring our lives up with money and stuff so that we can fit in and we can be worthy and super, super safe. And instead, we have access to all of that. We have access to money. We have access to stuff without the need for it to consume us, to drive our lives. And the spirituality of stuff is understanding at what point is your purchase driving you instead of you driving it. And one way to kind of see this happen in your life is if you start noticing that your habits for purchasing start looking a bit erratic. And if it starts to do that, it might be because you're being influenced by others. And if you're noticing that you wish you spent less money on things that give you short-term pleasure, ask yourself, do I feel like I'm enough without it? Do I feel like I'm enough without it? Right? Many times we're thinking, oh, I'm gonna go do this thing. I'm gonna go have this, conversation with someone, or I'm gonna show up in a certain way. I want to look a certain way. I want to have a certain thing. I want to arrive in a certain car. And we start to fixate on these really focused moments that don't actually have meaning in the rest of our lives. When you think about like the wedding, for example, how many of us spent boatloads of money on weddings that are one moment and one day really do not determine at all the quality of the marriage or the quality of the relationship that you're engaging in, and may set you back, maybe even put you in debt, may have you getting stressed and worried and all of those things, when in reality, this was just a big party that we're putting on for ourselves. And so we get caught up, and we all do, and it's this human experience, and it's not like there's something wrong with it. But I do believe that we can challenge ourselves and ask the question of ourselves when these things are happening. When are we driving the bus instead of everyone around us driving it, and we just happen to be on it? And this is when you start to think about, can I have freedom from not having all of this stuff in the first place? Can I show up vulnerably with not all of the things that armor me up, the expensive everything that shows to everyone that I have what I need, that I am well off, that my children are fed and cared for, that I have a good family life, that I have a good job, all of those markers of success. Can I show up without those things and still have it be that people think highly of me because of who I am and how I'm able to flex? And it's not about showing up and being the, worst version of yourself, or to really lower your standards in all these areas just so you don't have the stuff. But it's really about playing this game, about knowing that we can show up with an inner strength and worthiness that is bigger than the material things we have in life. Yet we play this game of life knowing that we're choosing it. Of course, you put on the nice things when you want to impress someone, but it's very different than that coming from this fear-based mentality of it's not enough, no one will like me, or I won't show up as well in terms of all of the things that I want in life if I don't have all of these things, and it drives you into this place of anxiety. And so this is the difference between all the accumulation, the mindless spending, and the short-term gains versus the really intentional things that you're like, you know what, I really get a lot of pleasure out of this. I get a ton of joy out of this. And for once, maybe I'm going to pause on buying something. Maybe I'm going to pause on going after this thing. Maybe instead of looking for the feeling that I want in the things I have, I create it from my own experiences. Maybe I create confidence from a place of understanding I'm worthy even before all those things have appeared. And so this is the difference between playing that game, knowing that we're choosing it and it's not choosing us. So I say a deep yes to this, a deep yes to showing up with that inner strength, a deep yes to showing up with worthiness that is bigger than the material things in life, because that level of inner strength, to me, is the true freedom. All right, my friends, so that is it for this week. I hope you enjoyed this topic about what is really the crux of living with less, of laying down our armor and instead being strong from inside out. And I think this is a little bit timely because as we are continuing to head into this new year, there is this idea of how much can we start to shed? How much can we start to unravel? How much can we unplug from the things that we are plugged into that are not serving us? So let this be your moment in time where you start to do some of these exercises, and hopefully you can get a chance to answer some of these questions for yourself so that you truly start to identify where you are still plugged into today. All right, so again, I am still going live on Instagram for 30 days. So if you want to join in, if you want to see what it's all about, feel free to hop on over. My handle is @MayEmpson, and you can follow me there. We have so much fun, and the topics keep changing. And so I hope to see you guys over there. Again, if you ever have any questions and you want to reach out and schedule a one-on-one session complimentary to see what coaching is all about, to understand how we could work together, or to even just get a little bit of a breakthrough. I have limited spots, but I am offering a few up now. So check out www.mayempson.com/contact, and you can fill out the form there and secure your spot. All right, hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will talk to you next time. Thanks so much for joining us this week on Own Your Best Life. Make sure to subscribe to the show on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts so that you'll never miss a show. And while you're at it, can you please rate and review on iTunes? I would so appreciate it. Share it with a friend, take a screenshot of it, and tag @MayEmpson. This helps continue to get the word out. For more show notes and resources, check out www.mayempson.com. It'll have all the links to everything you heard here today. Thanks so much for listening. It's time to own your best life.